Hello and welcome to my SHOREFALL recap. I am losing the light a little bit, so sorry if the lighting changes during this video, but I'm going to go ahead and give you this recap. So, SHOREFALL. It is 3 years later. Also, Berenice, Sanchia and Gregor are making their way to the Michelle Campo. All the houses have increased security and topped their walls with rigs that shoot bolts into anyone who isn't meant to be near the campos. They are searched and given access because they have an appointment. They're there to sell Orso's design for twinned lexicons, which he has perfected since the siege on the mountain. They're actually also there to steal something. They've been planning it for 6 months. They do actually proceed with selling the sigils and method for twinning lexicons. The Michelles want to test that this device works over a long distance, and so they take it out for a walk around the campo. Orso and Sanchia go with them. Using her abilities, which she has a lot of practice with now, Sanchia creates a distraction by getting a crate full of lighting rigs to fly all around at a very high speed. Then she sneaks off and down towards the house lexicon. She starts a fire in the househead's bedroom as a distraction and then accesses the lexicon's cooling pipe. She has to stop the water flow, insert a small metal cube into the pipe and restart the flow, all in 10 seconds. It is very difficult, but she manages it. She returns once the chaos from her first distraction has died down and they finish the sale. They go home and check if their job worked, although they know they might have to wait a while. The metal cube was scribed in a way to allow them to duplicate the Michelle sigils from their lexicon once they started updating it with the new sigils they'd just bought from also Foundry Side Limited. It starts working. They all go out drinking to celebrate. They'll be giving away the Michelle signals and so have basically just taken down another house. Foundry Side Limited has become a consultancy business in the 3 years since its inception. Lots of new houses and foundries have been set up by the people in Foundry Side and by people who left the houses. Lots of them have needed help. Sanchia has become very good at scribing because of her abilities, and there's also Orso and Berenice, so they have lots of knowledge they can sell and share. So they also have a library which people can access for a fee, which includes money but also the donation of a design or a definition. When they go home, Sanchia tells Clef about the day. He's still gone though. They haven't been able to fix Gregor either. The one time they tried, he entered a trance and nearly killed Sanchia. She wishes that Valeria had made good on her promise of a favour. Gregor has nightmares, which are memories. He was searching for something in the plantations. He also remembers moths. Sanchia has a dream. Valeria appears and shows Sanchia a vision, a small bone, a man in a black cloak, a ship coming across the sea. Valeria is terrified that the Maker is coming back. Berenice wakes Sanchia from the nightmare and the group meet to discuss. They agree that the Maker is Cressides and they need to stop him from coming back. He was the first and most dangerous Hierophant. They need to find out when the ship is going to arrive, and so Gregor takes Sanchia with him to meet some people. They appear to be freedom fighters who are taking down the plantations. They have been wanting to meet Sanchia for a while and they try to recruit her. She says no, she has bigger things to deal with just now, not that she says this. They're told that the ship is due to arrive in 1 day and it is likely carrying hundreds of slaves. They reconvene at the Foundry Side house and agree that the slaves will likely be used in a ritual to bring Cressides back. They need to stop the ship, but it is a galleon and they are huge and powerful, carrying their own lexicon. Gregor has some experience with this though, and they do have Sanchia. Berenice is going to research rigs they can use in the library. Gregor goes to find them a ship they can use, and Orso and Sanchia go to dig something up from the basement. It's the Imperiat. They hire a fishing boat and go out to find the galleon. When they do, they use scribe devices to anchor themselves to it, and Sanchia and Gregor go on board. The ship seems deserted and quiet. They tamper with some of the ship weaponry to work for them instead, and then they start descending into the ship. All is quiet, but they do eventually find a dead body. It appears to have cut out its own eyes before killing itself. They proceed and find a room full of similar corpses, as well as hundreds of slave corpses that have sigils on their chests. There are also lots of dead moths. Sanchia and Gregor are confused because it isn't even midnight yet. There is one person still alive but begging to be killed because he saw him and can't take it. There are sheets of paper with scribings on. From this, Sanchia figures out that it is possible to scribe time so that the area inside the circle of bodies believes it is a different time, so it isn't necessary to wait for midnight. It seems that Chrysides might be back already. Sanchia uses the Imperiat to try to find some hierophantic sigils, but none show up. She does see an ordinary rig moving around upstairs though, so they go to investigate. It's Ophelia. She confirms that Chrysides is back, and she seems both scared and excited about this. She says he will fix everything. They ask her where Chrysides went, and she points through a door. Sanchia goes to investigate. She finds that part of the ship is just gone, ripped away somehow. Then she starts to feel nausea and extreme pain, the way you feel in the presence of a lexicon. Chrysides is behind her. He says he is pleased to meet her and she can look at him. He thinks he fixed the problem that killed the scrivers, for which he apologised to Ophelia. Sanchia doesn't turn around. He wants Sanchia to tell him where Valeria is. He says she isn't to be trusted and will kill thousands of people. She is likely hiding in one enclosed place in Tavan. She made changes to Sanchia so that Chrysides would have trouble perceiving her, so he doesn't know what else she's changed, but he knows she's trying to make Sanchia into a weapon. He asks Sanchia if she knew about or consented to that change. She doesn't answer. He thought not. Chrysides finally convinces Sanchia to turn around, and she feels a strange sense of wanting to comply with his requests. When she first sees him, it is with her scribed sight. Unlike when she sees normal hierophantic objects which look like a red star, Chrysides looks like a swirling vortex of red. With her normal sight, she sees a man dressed in a black cloak, a three-pointed hat and a mask, a Papa Monsoon costume from the carnival. He's also floating in the air with his legs crossed. Gregor notices that Sanchia has been gone a while and thinks he should go looking for her. Ophelia tries to persuade him not to, but he does. Chrysides seems to be about to compel Sanchia to answer him. She tells him that Valeria appears to her and she doesn't know where Valeria is. Chrysides wants Sanchia to tell him where Clef is. She manages to resist by telling him he should give her time to think about it so that he's not like the powers of Tavan. Gregor arrives and shoots Chrysides with the expringle that is connected to the ones on the deck. That does nothing. Chrysides just bats them away. Gregor and Sanchia fire off all the weapons. That doesn't do anything either. Then Chrysides takes control of Gregor's body. He can't do this to Sanchia because of whatever Valeria did to her, but he can torture Gregor this way. In a last desperate attempt to escape, Sanchia activates the Imperiat. This does somewhat impair Chrysides, but it doesn't kill him as she'd hoped. He laughs about this, noting that he made the Imperiat, so of course it wouldn't kill him. The knock-on effect is that the ship and its lexicon have also been shut down, and so it is starting to sink. They need to escape. They run and use parachutes like the one Sanchia used when robbing the waterfront to get off the ship. Since the galleon is failing and their air sailing rigs are powered by the galleon lexicon, they get dumped into the water. As a result, the papers Sanchia took explaining how to scribe time are destroyed. In the distance, they see Chrysides using his power to push the ship. Sanchia wakes up in the rebel camp. They couldn't go back to Foundryside and the rebels still owe Gregor a favour. He helped them by telling them the location of a big Dandolo weapons cache on one of the plantations. The festival is happening now, and Sanchia explains that the lights celebrate the fact that people survived a big monsoon 100 years ago. At the end of the festival, on Shorefall night, Papa Monsoon arrives, the devil. They need to speak to Valeria again to find out what is going on. Also thinks that she is in a Michiel lexicon, as when she was able to speak to Sanchia before, it was after the lexicon job and when Sanchia was asleep. Because the Michiels have now twinned their lexicons, they can go to any one of them, and Sanchia can use some of her Dolospina venom to sleep. They do this. Sanchia dreams that she is drowning and eventually lands in a bubble with Valeria, who explains that the water is reality and she's hiding in the in-between. Valeria can't exist in reality anymore because of her battle with Chrysides, so she lives here now, kind of in a lexicon and kind of nowhere. Sanchia explains how Chrysides was brought back, and Valeria thinks his restoration won't be as stable because they cheated Midnight. Valeria explains that Chrysides built her to change reality, but she didn't want to do to the world what he wanted done, and so she worked with the loopholes in her sigils. They fought. They were destroyed, in a way, and now they're back. Chrysides wants to close the loopholes now so that he can get Valeria to make the changes he wanted to make. However, just as he damaged her so that she can no longer exist in reality, she damaged him so that some important sigils are gone from his mind. He is also limited in what he can do with the sigils he has, and only has full use of them all at midnight. The further from midnight he gets, the weaker he is. Because of their limitations, they both need help to make the necessary changes to reality. The mountain was a hierophantic device, and both Cressides and Valeria will need a component of it. Valeria can implant an image of the component in Sanchia's mind so that they can get it, and then Valeria will be able to help Sanchia properly. Sanchia is wary and concerned that she's being lied to. Sanchia notes that Valeria made changes to her without asking. Valeria says she did this to help Sanchia and because she didn't think she was ready for those truths at the time. She also notes that out of her and Cressides, only one of them has killed people in order to return. Sanchia makes Valeria promise to try and help Gregor and Clef if Sanchia is going to help Valeria. Then she allows the implantation of the image by allowing Valeria to touch her. The component is a gold metal cone within the Candiano lexicon. The vision then changes to one of a man crying over a child. Valeria's casket is in the room also. The child is emaciated and ill. The man is begging for help, and Valeria says she doesn't have the ability to help the child. Valeria says there is only one way to save the child, and the man says, "No, look what it did to you." The vision changes again to one of Cressides. He has Clef and Valeria. He reaches out and opens a doorway in reality that leads to nothing. This makes Sanchia feel very uncomfortable, and she notices that behind Cressides is thousands of people who are dead. She starts screaming and wakes up. She tells everyone what happened. They need to get back into the mountain and get the cone before midnight, but Cressides will also be after it and will know they're coming. The group discuss and figure out that Cressides wants the cone to help him change reality. They need to get it first, and they're going to use the carnival as a front to get into the mountain by pretending to have a float. Claudia and Giovanni have made a variation of Orso's scribed box that replicates physical items rather than scribings. The replicas are invisible, but solid. Gregor has bought 50 monkey corpses. Meanwhile, Ophelia sends a representative to the Michiel head of trade. She wants to buy the mountain, which the Michiels now own. Of course, they don't want to sell. Cressides forces the head of trade to cut off his thumb, sign over the mountain, and then kill himself. The group gets onto the campo by using various scribed distractions. The mountain is crawling with Dandolo guards though, and they have to go underground to get inside. When they do, all the lexicon rooms are being guarded and searched, except the one that is flooded, so they'll have to go to that one. Orso and Gregor go to another room to drain the water. They have to sneak past lots of guards to do so. Sanchia and Berenice go to get the cone. The mountain helps them. Gregor has to battle to save Orso, which snaps him back to his state of being controlled. He remembers a time when he woke healed from a mortal injury and was surrounded by the dead that he had killed on his mother's command. The Michiels arrive to take back the mountain that they see as having been stolen from them. The Michiels take Orso and Gregor captive, though Gregor is still in a fugue state. They're about to kill Gregor when Cressides arrives. Cressides kills all the guards in a horrific way, thereby saving Orso and Gregor. He then calls out for Sanchia, who he feels sure is watching and now owes him a thank you for saving her friends. Sanchia is watching, and she tells Berenice to escape with the cone, which they did manage to recover. She then goes and tells Cressides what Valeria wanted, and says she'll take him to her. Also helps Gregor to safety, while Sanchia leads Cressides to Valeria. She actually takes him to a room where the mountain tries to trap him. This lasts long enough for Sanchia to escape to the carriage. Cressides fights his way free and comes after her. The mountain is destroyed in the process. They manage to get the cone working just in time, and Valeria prevents Cressides from harming them. They get Valeria back to their Foundryside lexicon and install her. She then starts taking control of reality within her perimeter. She's not at full strength because she would need hundreds of cones to be able to be in such control, and they would have to kill hundreds of people to make more of them, so that's not an option. They need to come up with a plan to beat Cressides. Essentially, his wrappings and the bone are scribed to convince reality that he is alive, but he isn't fully living in a traditional sense. Chrysides created Valeria to change the reality of humans to stop them from their cruelties towards each other. This wouldn't really work in the positive way it sounds though. Valeria's commands required her to comply with Chrysides' instructions. However, he was a human trying to visit devastation on other humans, and so Valeria was able to use this loophole to stop him. The fight resulted in them both being diminished to states of being not quite alive, but also not quite dead. Chrysides still needs something, like the mountain, that defies reality to enable him to enact his plan. He decides to use all the lexicons in the city for this purpose and as a substitute. Valeria says that the way to defeat Chrysides will be to use Clef to return him to his not quite alive state. Clef has degraded over time, and so they will scribe time to fix him. To do this, they will have to kill Gregor, and Sanchia will have to listen to the sigils that reverse time for him so that he returns to life. This is how Gregor's sigils save him, and also why his memory doesn't work very well. The problem is that Sanchia would have to remember hundreds of sigils, which she can't do. Valeria suggests twinning Sanchia and Berenice, since Berenice would be able to remember that many sigils. They proceed with the twinning. This allows Sanchia and Berenice to hear each other telepathically, see through each other's eyes, feel what each other are feeling. This will be temporary as they swallowed the scribe devices, so it will eventually pass. They kill Gregor using Sanchia's old Dolospina darts, the tranquilizer darts, and they see Gregor experiencing the memory of the first time he was brought back. They hear the moss, they hear Chrysides speaking the sigil instructions, they see Ophelia crying over the bodies of her husband and her other son. We also find out that she was responsible for the carriage crash that killed them by orchestrating it. For what purpose is unclear. Gregor wakes up. He thinks Ophelia just wanted to kill his dad. Earlier we saw a vision where she was injured, cuts and bruises, and we know she didn't approve of her husband's projects. She didn't plan for her children to also be in the carriage. They then attempt to fix Clef. Berenice also and Valeria have worked together to create a box in which she can manipulate time. No sacrifice is necessary, partially because so many happened to make her in the first place. Fixing Clef will be hard work for her. Partway through the process, time gets a bit messed up, and some of the group see flashes of what might be the future. Doors in the air and people on the beach. The basement nearly collapses, but at the end of it, Clef is back. Chrysides is going to sacrifice a lot of people at an event, a house function, to create a powerful lexicon. He does this by showing his face, which bends reality so much that it sends people mad and they kill themselves. Claudia comes to tell the group what has happened. Sanchia starts catching Clef up on what he has missed over the past 3 years. He is surprised by what Sanchia has allowed Valeria to do to her. He explains that Valeria has built in a way for her to twin herself with Sanchia in case she ever needs a new body, and Sanchia is furious. Chrysides is going to be coming after them though, so they need to plan. They note that Valeria is the only thing that has ever been able to stop him. Also wonders if they could scribe a bolt to believe the reality at Foundryside, which is under Valeria's control, is around the bolt as well. So if they shot it at Chrysides, Valeria could take control without having to be near him. Valeria thinks this could work, but wants her twinning with Sanchia as a backup. They start working on the bolt, but Chrysides arrives, and so Sanchia goes out to distract him. Gregor prepares to shoot the bolt once it is ready, but Chrysides has a back door into his mind, and when he announces that Ophelia's debt has not yet been paid, Gregor's body comes under Chrysides' control. Gregor tries to fight this, but he can't, and so he beats up Sanchia until she is knocked out and takes Clef and gives him to Chrysides. Berenice escapes and runs with the Imperiat. Chrysides is able to use Clef to jump in between reality. He tries to find Berenice, but he can't. He goes back to Ophelia with Gregor, and Clef refuses to talk to Chrysides. Chrysides also took Valeria and has trapped her. He is keeping her with the lexicons he is going to use so that he can fix her and start using her for her intended purpose again. This is dangerous for him though, as if anything goes wrong, she could escape into the lexicon herself and would then have the power she needs to be able to defeat him. Chrysides has twinned all of the lexicons in the city to believe they hold the cone from House Candiano. He can therefore control the reality within the city, and so he uses this to make it midnight so that he can begin his work. Sanchia wakes up. She's blindfolded and strapped to a table. She can't see any scrivings apart from one construction scriving very far away. She speaks and establishes that Orso is in the room and gagged, and he's still injured from their earlier close run-in with Chrysides. She and Berenice are able to start speaking again. They deepen their connection so that Berenice is able to use Sanchia's scribed sight and other skills like swimming, climbing and sneaking to break into the Dandolo Campo and go to a workshop. Berenice starts working on devices. They have a plan, and part of it includes adding more people to their twin bond. Sanchia thinks Cressides is the man from the vision and Clef is his son, who he scribed into a key in order to save him and make him immortal. Cressides comes and collects Sanchia and Orso. With her blindfold off, Sanchia can see that Orso's wound is infected and he is very ill. Cressides cannot use Clef to transport them in between reality to another location, as he has been doing for himself. This is because of the changes Valeria has made to Sanchia, so he flies them off instead. Gregor is in his old childhood bedroom. Since Cressides has commanded him to follow Ophelia's commands, she asks him if he's glad to be back there. He tells her no, and she finds out that he knows she orchestrated the carriage crash to kill his father and nearly killed both her children. She tries to command Gregor free, but she doesn't have that authority. Cressides wants to know where the Imperiat is. He tortures Sanchia and forces Orso to speak in an attempt to find out. He also explains to Sanchia that the changes Valeria made to her are hierophantic, and so would usually require a sacrifice. In order to avoid that, Valeria used Sanchia's own life, and that is why she has been aging more quickly. Whenever she uses her scribed abilities, she uses some of her own life to do it. As Orso is about to guess, and therefore reveal, what Sanchia and Berenice are doing, the two of them enact the plan. Berenice has created twinned boxes and placed them in various lexicons. Then she starts the Imperiat and puts it in the box, causing the lexicon to fail, and so Midnight disappears in those areas. Cressides goes to find Berenice, thinking she is with the Imperiat at the lexicon being affected. Meanwhile, Berenice is actually on her way to Gregor to twin him with her and Sanchia. Berenice finds Ophelia, who is upset and desperate to save Gregor. Berenice explains the plan. By twinning him with them, Gregor will become part of a new whole, and so will be different and may be able to take control of himself back from Cressides. Ophelia agrees to help because she has some control of Gregor, and to get the sigils inside him, he will need to be stabbed by a small knife. He is not likely to agree to swallow a device like Sanchia and Berenice did. Ophelia enters the room where Sanchia and Orso are with Gregor on guard. He fights it, but is instructed to kill intruders, and so he kills Ophelia. She manages to stab him with the knife. Berenice has entered the room, and so he is ordered to kill her too, and begins to move to do so. However, the twinning starts to take effect, and just before he stabs her with his sword, he becomes part of the bond. They free Orso and get him to swallow a device and twin with them as well. Sanchia and Berenice are getting used to the connection, so they're able to help Orso acclimatise much more quickly than they originally did. They come up together with a plan to defeat Cressides. However, Valeria seems suspiciously happy about what is going on. Cressides notices that multiple lexicons are failing, and he starts to worry, rushing back to his main lexicon, the one where Valeria's pseudo-body is, so that he can destroy it. When he arrives, the group use construction scribings to hit and trap him between very large slabs of stone. They, with Valeria's help, predicted where he would appear, and so were able to set up the Imperiat to give them some time. When he is hit, Clef is knocked from Cressides' hand and Sanchia grabs him. Sanchia uses Clef to start to break Cressides apart, and as she does so, they see a vision from Cressides' memory. Clef is actually Cressides' father, and he was a Hierophant first. He created everything. Clef doesn't remember this and doesn't want to accept it, especially what he's done to Cressides, his son. Valeria has now had enough time with the lexicons in the city being outside of Cressides' control, and so she takes control and is back to full power. She explains that her plan is to unmake all scribed devices and wipe the knowledge of scribing from all human minds. The consequences of this would be catastrophic and would cost over 6 million lives. Gregor has a plan, and before Sanchia can stop him, he removes the knife in his shoulder that is twinning him to the others. Then he takes out and swallows the plate that will twin him with Valeria, thus changing them both. Gregor is not really himself anymore, and neither is Valeria herself. She can't edit scribings anymore, but they do have control of all of the lexicons in the city, and therefore all of the devices. They have become Tavan, and they have a plan. They want to get rid of Cressides, but they're also working on something else. The rest of the group run, and with Clef's help they get to Paulina, the rebel leader, on the docks and use a boat that is not scribed to escape. They're worried about what Tavan can and will do now. also still has the Imperiat, and he knows he can use it to disable the lexicons and thereby stop Tavan from what they are going to do. He says goodbye to Sanchia and Berenice and takes a small boat that they had used to get to their ship back into the city. He turns the Imperiat on so that no matter what Tavan throws at him, any scribe devices turn off, and so he remains safe until he reaches the city and uses the Imperiat to disable the lexicon cooling devices, similar to what Sanchia did right at the beginning of the book. The others watch on as the city explodes. They know that Tavan, formerly Gregor and Valeria, will have survived. The city itself, though, has been destroyed, and so has Orso. And that is the end of Shorefall. So hopefully this has been a useful recap. If you do go ahead and read Lachlan's, you'll have to let me know what you think, and as before I will have a written version of this recap down in the description bar for you. And that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video and want to see more like this from me, then do think about hitting that subscribe button, and I hope to see you here again soon. Thanks!